Ho, ho, ho! Is that jolly Saint Nick? No, it's Bruce Willis crawling through the Nakatomi Tower vents with a machine gun on Christmas Eve. This isn't your average feel-good holiday flick, but deck the halls anyway, because we're here to settle the debate once and for all that yes, Die Hard totally counts as a Christmas classic. But how, you ask? From the yippee-ki-yay heard round the world to Alan Rickman's shock freefall, we'll be going through Die Hard's best Christmas gifts scene by scene. And if that doesn't tell you Die Hard is a Christmas classic, I don't know what will. Alright, with the case laid out for this being more than just an average Christmas time flick, let's start going down our checklist of exactly why Die Hard delivers all the right presents. First things first, let's quickly go through the plot for anyone who hasn't come across this amazing movie yet, which is kinda hard to believe. It's Christmas Eve, and New York cop John McClane flies into LAX hoping to patch things up with his wife Holly, who he's been separated from. She's at some fancy corporate party at the Nakatomi Plaza for her job. McClane gets driven there by a chatty limo driver named Argyle, who ends up being his ally by the end of this wild night. Anyway, while McClane's changing into his party shirt, a team of German criminals bust into Nakatomi, led by this creepy cordial dude named Hans Gruber. They proceed to unleash chaos. We're talking about a massive hostage situation here, folks. Of course, McClane somehow slips away undetected and almost takes down Gruber early, but his weapon is empty. So now McClane is in Die Hard mode, picking these fools off one by one while wisecracking on their radio. But Gruber's plot twist is he is no regular goon. His squad is actually there to crack the Nakatomi vault and snatch $640 million in bearer bonds. Tension builds until the feds cut power to the building, which accidentally opens the last vault gate for Gruber and squad. McClane catches on to their whole explosives on the roof escape plan and saves the hostages, but gets to watch Gruber blast away the FBI's gunships for good measure. Finally, it's just down to McClane and his estranged wife Holly held hostage by Hans. In the end, McClane wasted his last 2 bullets sending that white-collar crime boss through the window to a karmic death. Argyle rolls up just in time in the limo ride as McClane and Holly kiss and make up. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good Die Hard! So why does this action-packed thriller actually count as a worthy Christmas movie? Well, here's our take. For starters, it literally takes place entirely on Christmas Eve. Aside from the office party serving as the initial setting, the holiday permeates many other elements as well. Christmas decorations and trees remain visible throughout Nakatomi Tower despite all the violence and destruction. Frost coats the windows outside in the cold night, while deceased villains are strung up with holiday lights by McClane. Ironically, cheerful Christmas music plays over scenes of McClane hiding and running for his life. From start to finish, Christmas is integral to the atmosphere. Thematically, it's also a story of reconciliation, both between McClane and his wife Holly, as well as him coming to appreciate the value of lives other than his own in the midst of crisis. As he works to save the hostages one by one, McClane shakes off his selfishness and instead risks everything for people he barely even knows. He channels that Christmas spirit of goodwill towards all. And his shared trauma with Holly ultimately brings them back together, after having drifted apart before that fateful party. In the end, he even saves her life. That's a Christmas gift for life, quite literally. There are other fun, festive nods as well, like the convenience store where McClane writes "ho ho ho" in blood on a corpse to taunt the villains, which proves he hasn't lost his dark humor. Or when he tapes a gun to his back and has to explain what it is to Argyle so it doesn't look suspicious. A rogue reindeer. Very clever Christmas puns woven in. But in all seriousness, this movie has also become a nostalgic staple for so many families during the holidays. Between TBS and other networks, it seems to run on a constant loop every December. The season just wouldn't feel complete now without watching John McClane crawling through vents or flying off buildings with Christmas carols playing cheerfully. It's exhilarating entertainment, filled with winter iconography and Christmas resonance that keeps drawing viewers back. In our book, adding Die Hard to your annual holiday watch list is totally valid. However, all of this doesn't justify why it is one of the best Christmas classics. Some major reasons why we love this movie so much are those epic scenes that stick with you over endless holiday rewatches. Like when McClane first blasts through the elevator shaft in his bare feet after crawling through the ventilation ducts and has to painfully hobble over the glass shards littering the floor. Just an iconic way to establish how outmatched he is, fighting these mercenaries without shoes or real weapons, and showing off that Willis grit, toughing it out over the bloody footprints. Or how about his desperate leap off the exploding roof hooked to nothing but a fire hose? We've seen that stunning slow motion shot a million times, but it still gives us sweaty palms every viewing. Our hearts stop as he plummets dozens of stories right alongside Hans Gruber's villainous plunge, the music swelling, the shattering glass raining past them. simply breathtaking cinema. And when McClane's shoulders wrench at the abrupt end of the fire hose and bounces back up, whew, we breathe that sigh of relief every single time. And we certainly can't forget the crowning moment that lives forever in meme glory. The back and forth with Hans Gruber until McClane corners him with the classic line, "Yippee-ki-yay, MF," before literally dropping the mic. McClane blessing us, peak one-liner action movie satisfaction, in a moment calling back his snarled holiday message to the terrorists earlier. These are just a handful of those memorable scenes that make Die Hard so relentlessly rewatchable year after year when December rolls around. All filled with Willis's charisma, and some all-time great directing from John McTiernan. Every pro has a con, and so does Die Hard. Part of the charm of Die Hard these days is also catching some of those funny little production slip-ups, like when McClane is talking on that massive walkie-talkie to Powell, but the antenna is not even fully plugged into the device. A noticeable continuity error now that we're looking. Of course, he'd have no reason to pull it out halfway, so clearly got dislodged accidentally between takes. Or how his white tank top gets more and more shredded and dirty as he crawls through vents and fights villains, but then is suddenly pristine again without explanation in some scenes. A distracting wardrobe faux pas between cuts. You'd think the costume department would notice all the smears and rips to keep it consistent, given how iconic the dirty t-shirt became. And of course, the immortal glass on his feet after the ventilation duct crawl. We see Doc bandaging him up and glimpses of blood and shards between his toes, but then in certain shots clearly no glass at all. Supposed to sell the tension of him walking over debris with bare feet, but talk about breaking suspension of belief when they forgot to sell in a few bits. Not to mention how he treads through a lot more than glass at times with those bare piggies, yet seems relatively okay. But hey, he's John McClane. Regular rules of mortal men don't apply. These little mess-ups just add to the humor value though, making Die Hard feel like an old-fashioned film where we fill in the logical gaps. Especially on those repeated holiday viewings where we catch something new each time. In closing out our argument today for Die Hard's rightful place among the lineup of certified Christmas classics, no defense would be complete without sharing some of the fascinating behind-the-scenes trivia that makes this film even more special. As much as we love watching John McClane crawling through vents and flying off buildings with holiday carols playing cheerfully in the background, the off-screen stories of how it all came together make it even more magical. For starters, movie fans might not realize that Die Hard is actually adapted from a gritty detective novel called Nothing Lasts Forever, featuring a hero named Joe Leland instead of McClane. And here's the kicker, in the book, it's not even set at Christmas, but rather takes place around the 4th of July weekend. So, the fact that the filmmakers actively chose to take this action story of a lone wolf under siege and wrap it inside a holiday high-rise setting shows just how integral they knew the Christmas theme could be. It was a stroke of genius switching it to Christmas Eve, thus giving us the beloved seasonal action flick, and Hans Gruber equally could have been less memorable, if not for the Shakespearean gravitas that Alan Rickman brought to the cunning villain. Already admired for his stage pedigree at the time, Rickman elevates Gruber to a particular sophistication beyond the typical action movie heavy. And even his climatic death plunge was informed by that unpredictable theatrical instinct. Completely unscripted, Rickman shocks all by spontaneously letting go and free-falling backward from the Nakatomi Tower. The look of astonishment from the actors around him is real. And while Rickman was safely harnessed with rigging, this spur-of-the-moment dash of drama fittingly caps our most chilling adversary in Die Hard's incredible ensemble. We always appreciate that dedication to giving us an iconic villain. So there you have it, the thorough case for giving this action flick prime seating at the table alongside Santa and mistletoe in your December entertainment. The stacking evidence proves Die Hard hits all the crucial bullet points that qualify something as a worthy Christmas classic. Festive setting? Check. Heartwarming themes? Check. Constant rewatchability? Check and check. It's got it all. We're absolutely positive about its standing as a legitimate holiday staple, and we only need one more emphatic yippee-ki-yay to drive that verdict home. What do you think? Are you convinced? Let us know if you'll be adding Die Hard to your list of annual holiday must-watches. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe so you don't miss any future reviews. So please share them in the comment section below. We sure will be, as we try to spot more continuity errors and laugh along with John McClane's unconventional Christmas spirit. Yippee-ki-yay, and happy watching, movie fans!